Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode number 292 of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm Matt, he's Chad, and with us this week is novelist John Jackson Miller. John, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Wonderful. Where are you coming to us from?
Wisconsin, where we have ice.
Oh, dear. I'm in
where
Oklahoma,
it's
and it
here.
is unseasonably warm right now.
We're always by the ice machine.
So,
Well, you'll have to bear with Matt and I. This is our first show in like almost 3 weeks.
we may stumble over each other a little bit, but I think we'll get through it okay.
Well done.
So, John, you are, you've done a lot in your career. You've written comics, you've tracked comic sales on Comic-Con. You're, like I said at the beginning, you're a novelist with Batman Resurrection and Batman Revolution under your belt just in the last year and a half or so. Yeah.
That's the proper order.
Okay, yeah. How do you do it, man? That's a lot of balls in the air.
I look at my bank account. I look at what's coming due, and I'm like, well, all right, I better turn on the keyboard. It's I have been doing this full time since 2007. Before that, I was editing magazines and books about the comics business, going all the way back to '93. There's a little stretch in there where I'm moonlighting, so I'm doing both, and that was the early the middle part of the 2000s. It's that, and I also have a fairly heavy convention schedule that I've been doing. I've done probably 14, 15, 16 shows this year, including 2 stops in Europe. So it was about 45,000 miles all told.
Wow.
That's
one of those he had to put up with me. So that's like double.
Well, it's all right. It's all of that, and it used to be that I was also tracking the comics sales every month. And then all that information went away. The new information went away about 5 years ago, and I continued to report at least Diamond's Diamond's reorder charts, which they put out every week, until those dwindled down to having almost no information in them, and then they let go everybody who was involved with it, and so that information is now out, and I can claim that data set is complete, at least on the more recent end. But again, partly due to the fact that I'm not having to do the monthly reports, which used to be very, very time involved or time consuming. That's part of why I'm able to write more now and also attend more events. Certainly I've had more novels come out. I've had my last 4 novels were Star Trek, Star Wars, Batman, that has only really been made possible by me reclaiming some time. I'm still tracking various data sets. I'm working on some stuff now with some sales figures going back to the 1960s. But again, and getting that ready for presentation. But in the meantime, it's been good to sort of at least get the first weekend of the month back. That was something I did for 25 years. Was tabulate those numbers.
That's incredible. What did you learn about the industry, just broadly speaking?
Well, over all those years, we found out, first of all, that the industry was in much better shape than the online world gives it credit for. But then also, if you go back and read the fanzines from the 60s and 70s and 80s, comic books were supposedly collapsing all that time too, and that didn't. happen. It's very clear how important the comic shop market is to the survival of comics into this century, and it's also the case that I do not believe that there's just all sorts of not, I don't want to say myths, but misconceptions about how things sell or why things don't sell or whatever. The number one thing telling how well a comic book does is how many stores are in the market that month. How many? This is why those numbers in the early 1990s were as high as they were, because we had so many stores that were ordering them. And then we find that there's sort of a momentum that is in the market. This month's sales look like last month's sales because people are using the money from 2 months ago to pay for the orders that they're doing 2 months in advance, and this is a reason why I think the industry for a long time benefited by having comic books that were in series that had issue numbers in the hundreds or 200s or 300s. One of the pages on Comichron actually has that tracking on there, where it talks about what the average issue number was, or what the number of titles were that had 500 issues or more, or 600 issues or more, and how that changed over the years. And of course, it kept changing because they would reboot it, things or whatever. But what was the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of doing that is that because retailers are buying or they're ordering comics based on their pull and hold files from fans. There's a reluctance, or not a reluctance, but people will put something in their folder and then they'll not take it off. So it'll continue to be ordered for them. Whereas if you break up a series into multiple components and don't carry those people over, we saw that with a book I did called Knights of the Old Republic at Star Wars, where we did a series that was 50 issues long, and for the most part, the sales of one issue looked like the sales of the previous issue because that's what retailers were ordering. Dark Horse did an experiment where they would do 5 months off, 5 months on, 5 months off. And the idea was to give the artist time to finish the book so nothing would be late. But all that happened in that case was it resulted in it having to be a brand new series every single time for the retailer who was starting to pull and hold files. And because you get the benefit of the new number one, but you got to start over from scratch every time. Right. And so I think that is definitely something where numbering has been a strength in comics. I think back about when Frank Miller did Year One and for Batman, and when Jim Lee did Hush for the same title, they put those comics not in a new number one, but they put them in the regular Batman series. And the result was that the sales continued to be high even after Frank Miller left, even after Jim Lee left, because what was going on? Well, people had already added it to their list. I added, Batman to my list after Year One, and then people forget to take it off. so that results in sales which are look a lot like the previous month's sales. Comics are responsive somewhat to price, cover price, but increases don't hurt as much as you think they might, or you might think they might. Comics actually tend to be, the demand tends to be pretty much the same, whatever is going on. When DC dropped its prices on everything by $1, I remember Bob Wayne telling me later that it was the most popular, least successful thing they had ever done because just the fact that they reduced the comics from $3.99 to $2.99, well, sales didn't go up by a third.
They were drawing the line at $2.99.
Yeah, whatever it was they were doing. Yeah. And so I can't remember what the actual thing was, but that was kind of it. I mean, people were willing to buy the more expensive thing, and whenever there's been experiments where okay, we're gonna do they did this for a while in X-Men in the 90s, where it's like, all right, we're gonna have the discount version of the issue and we're gonna have the deluxe version of the issue. The deluxe one always outsold the cheap one, always, and by a dramatic amount. When DC did the cardstock covers here some years back, once again, it's kind of a stealth price increase because everybody's just going to buy the fancier one. At least because if you're really in it just to read, those are the people who are most likely to be reading the trade paperback anyway. Those are the folks who are not necessarily one of the individual issues. Don't know whether this was part of the topic that we wanted to discuss or not, but
hey, it falls under and more.
yeah, there you go. But these are the kinds of things that you found out. I mean, it's and one of the shocking things is that what happens inside the actual comic book is really not that important to sales over the years. You will see when a superstar comes onto a book that sales will spike, but in general, that sort of dynamic of this month's sales looking like the previous month's sales looking like the previous month's sales, well, absolutely in the newsstand era it was like that. I mean, and nothing going on in the comics was impacting the actual sales of the comics very much. What was impacting sales in those years? It was what time of year it was. I mean, a comic book coming out, would have sales, 50% higher in the summer than it would in the winter. Mm-hmm. And that was just the way the newsstand worked back then. That's why you got annuals. That's why you got annuals were a way of adding a 13th issue in the summer, when everybody was actually out of school and riding their bicycles up and getting the books.
Well, so, that's part of just just basic economics, though. Is people are spending their money in the winter months on Christmas gifts, etc. Anyway.
Well, it really was more. I think it's just a matter of you can't get to the stores nearly as much, particularly when it was a younger audience. It's very common when you go back and look at the comics to see that they would double up in sales, or not double up, but they would like do. You would have titles that would be 9 issues a year, and they would just skip every other month in the winter. I think that was what Superman was like. You had a book like Archie Giant series, which would only come out in the summer. They dropped like 6 issues and they would just sit there on sale all summer. And then they had like 1 in October and then 1 at Christmas, and then otherwise. It was a different world then. The time of year almost makes no difference now in terms of comic sales or for many years, which again was an urban legend for not urban legend, but it was a misconception for many years. They used to refer in the comic shops to the winter as the dead quarter, and it wasn't because there wasn't traffic in the shops. It was because the publishers just weren't putting anything out. The number of titles they were releasing, they weren't going to go to the trouble of doing a huge event in the winter. Because the thinking was, well, everybody's going to be in the store in the summer. We're not going to do it right now. And what happened is anytime somebody did do an event in the winter, my Knights of the Old Republic series launched in January. I didn't mind that at all because, we made the top 60. We wouldn't have made it otherwise. Yeah. because there's just a lot fewer issues out there. And then also, when you had an event that was just designed to drop in the winter, that got all of the attention. I mean, you go back to, once again, 1995 with the Age of Apocalypse, when it was in 94 or 95, whichever one it was, where they replaced the X-Men titles for the entire winter long. Well, they owned the winter. They owned everything. That was the big deal. That was when they did Marvel versus DC, and that was 96. Yeah, so as well. They there is some value to being the only game in town or the only thing going on, PR wise. And just for years, people didn't think that people were in the stores at that point. When they certainly you have a much easier chance of getting a current comics buyer into the store in January than you did when they were riding their bicycles there.
Right.
Because most of us are driving cars.
Well, if you guys want to shift gears, I mean,
Sure.
So before we get started talking about the two books, tell us about your how you got into comic books and what your, I guess, origin story.
Yeah, well, I was one of those kids as well, where I started with Harvey Comics and Gold Key, and my mother was a grade school librarian, so instead of throwing my comics away, she made me keep them in good condition and put them in order and all of that. And I was drawing and writing my own comics and stories and pounding them out on the little typewriter I had. Later on, I started photocopying those comics. I discovered, reading Comics Buyer's Guide, that there were folks out there that were buying, selling, and trading, or at least passing between each other the mini comics or the fanzines that we would do. And so I would do that for a number of years. I was the editor of my high school newspaper, in part because I knew how to put together a magazine, because I had been doing my own fanzine at the time. I was the editor of my college paper at University of Tennessee. It was while I was there that I was reviewing the Batman movie that came out in '89. I would end up seeing that movie 12 times in the theater. Then I got the 13th time just very recently here when they had the Batman in concert thing that happened in Milwaukee. So that was kind of cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, I mean, so comics, I kind of carried with me. I was I think 14 years old when I first went to the local comic shop. Everybody else who dropped out of comics in high school because there was something else going on, football or social lives or something like that, I was like, let me have your comics. and that's how I accumulated them all. And then I started going to conventions, probably junior in high school. And I sort of add all that stuff together. And after graduate school, and after I did 1 year editing a line of magazines about lumber of all things, well, I was still reading Comics Buyer's Guide, and there was an ad in the back of it saying they needed an editor for their trade magazine, Comics Retailer. That's when I moved up to Wisconsin, where I have been ever since. And again, I was with that company for about 13 years. During that time, that's when I started writing comics.
So getting into the Batman books, tell us a little bit about, there's two of them out, and tell us a little bit about when they take place and kind of what the gist of the story.
Well, the notion is that Tim Burton made two movies, 1989 Batman and then 1992 Batman Returns. I was given the opportunity to write a couple of books that would be inspired by them. And I said to myself, I want to put my books in between the two novels, or in between the two movies. They are doing the Batman '89 comics at DC. That's Sam Hamm, the screenwriter, and Joe Quinones, who is actually my cover artist on a lot of my Star Wars stuff at Dark Horse. But they were setting their stories well after the end of Batman Returns. I told DC and Warner Brothers, let me put my stuff in between those movies, and I'm going to write these books as if they came out back in 1989 in the fall, or 1990 in the spring, showing what happened next. Bruce Wayne in Batman, the original movie, discovers that the Joker, was the one who killed his parents. That's unique in all the versions of Batman there are out there. And so what I wanted to do is, well, okay, question one, why is he still Batman after this? Because if the Joker is gone, hasn't he resolved the whole thing? And of course we could end up elaborating on what Alfred would think about him continuing to do this, what Vicky Vale, who we don't see in the second movie, but we hear about her, what she would think as well. And so those are some questions we could get to deal with. What is it like being in law enforcement in Gotham City? Because we've got Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon is unique, I think, as well among the various people who played that character. Pat Hingle is playing somebody who's just right at retirement age, I would think. And so, is he going to give Batman practical advice, play the mentor role more than he might have in some of these other versions? Certainly he's not the action hero that you get in the Nolan movies, where he's in the middle of things. And then characters like Alexander Knox, the reporter. He was sort of my favorite character because I was the reporter at the time myself. What happened to him? He has significant roles in both of these books. And what does it mean for him to stop? He's no longer covering Batman as an urban legend. Now he's actually tracking him as a part of his job, as a regular beat on the newspaper. Is it okay for him to share information with Batman or Bruce Wayne or vice versa? What does Batman think about having a reporter and looking into everything that he's working on? And then of course we get characters like Max Schreck and Selina Kyle, who are in the second movie, not in the first, but obviously they're in the world of the first movie. And I can involve Max Schreck, particularly in the second book. He is a major character in that, and he does not. The only thing with both of them is Selina Kyle, can't meet Bruce Wayne, because. That doesn't happen until Batman Returns, but otherwise, it was a very free situation in terms of what I could do.
Now, in the first one, you have Dr. Hugo Strange and Clayface. Were those the ones? Were you able to pick those as the ones you wanted to, use as the villains?
Yeah, I did, and we actually have kept the identity of one of those characters completely out of all the PR, because it is a mystery. And likewise in the second book, it's clear that the Riddler is in it, but we're not mentioning the other villain that's in it.
We're not. Okay.
Yeah. So Chad. No. That's okay. No, don't worry about it. No, the first one, it's been out for a year, so that's okay. The second one we're still playing very cool about, because that's a villain that we know that nobody is going to guess is on our list to be in there. But again, that's been part of the fun of it. Is yes, I was looking for characters that were not already appearing in the comics. We're kind of in a loose continuity with them, where I'm trying not to overlap or repeat anything that they've done. So, for example, in the comics, they've done Harvey Dent turning into Two-Face already. And even though that's in the future for me, I'm just, I'm not going to do that again while they've just done that. And then, I looked for characters that they had not done anything with, and also just that I thought would work well in a Tim Burton thematic kind of a thing. Yeah. Our version of Clayface is tragical and comical, unlike anybody that or any version of Clayface that we've seen. But he's like you would think that Burton probably would do him. Phantom of the Opera kind of Universal Monsters kind of a character, and certainly not the CGI version of Clayface that you get in the 70s and in the cartoons. That wouldn't work.
Right.
And so we have that. Our Riddler is likewise a much different Riddler than I think that people have seen before, and again, it's all going through this lens because a Burton Catwoman, a Burton Penguin, these are not going to be similar to any previous versions of those characters that you saw, but they're going to be through this sort of dark and comical lens that we did. So and another thing that I liked in the second book was getting finally a character who has technological superiority on Batman, because we have always had this thing in those two movies where, well, he's just he's showing up with one secret machine after another that he's had hidden away, or one secret vehicle, and we get into his designs for some of these vehicles. We created some new vehicles for these books. And we dealt with the fact that pretty much all the vehicles that he creates end up, something goes wrong with them in all these movies, or they get destroyed or damaged or whatever. So he's out there field testing all of this stuff. But yeah, no, Batman faces off against somebody who is definitely his superior, technologically, and that again forces him to think.
Well, it took me a while to figure out who that was, and once I did, I was like, oh, okay.
Well, and see, you enjoyed it better because you didn't know. So it's very good. And and again, I looked at that character in the same way. I looked at previous versions, and I'm like, well, what can I take from this? What can I harvest from this? And how can I work it into a larger story? And so yeah, it has been a lot of fun doing these books, and sort of having this this pretend thing going on. What if they could have done novels in between those movies at the time? They couldn't have, because there wasn't even a script for Batman Returns, until later on. But yeah, I think there are people who are saying, yeah, I'm watching movie one, then reading both books back to back, and then watching the second movie, and that's a whole thing for them. And if they want to read the comics too, there's nothing now that conflicts with the comics, because the second book resolves any continuity issues that we had.
So was it? I don't know. Did you have to do anything to get into the mindset of the Michael Keaton Batman for that era?
Not really, because again, I saw it 12 times. Well, no, I had memorized everything pretty much. When I needed to make sure I got a line exactly right, I would go back and look it up to see, what exactly. Have you ever danced with the devil, et cetera, to get that exactly right. And then what I would also do is I went back when there were moments in the movie where I needed to know exactly what had happened. We bring back in one of the Joker's goons in the first novel, and I had to make sure that particular character survived the first novel, and so I went back and freeze framed my way through, and it's like, okay, yeah, he does not actually die, or at least we can believe that character doesn't actually die, and there we go. And then likewise, in the second book, where I need to know everything about the newspaper that came out the day Bruce Wayne's parents died, or the day after. That's me freeze framing my way through that whole thing too. But no, as far as actually being in the characters, of Bruce Wayne's mind, the thing is, it's important to watch both movies. There's a misconception that he's dark, tortured, and brooding all the time. Well, no, he's got a sense of humor. he also is not really the recluse that a lot of people imagine. He is going out in public. He does. He is active in civic life. He may not show up to everything he's supposed to show up for, but we see him in Batman Returns facing off against Max Schreck in his office, saying, "Hey, the mayor and I are working together. We're not gonna let you build this power plant in town." That is not the millionaire playboy version of Bruce Wayne. This is a much different version. And then I think a thing that it might have taken people a little bit of time to get over is it being a novel. It's different from watching on the screen. When you're watching on the screen, you might hear Bruce mumble, 2 lines in an entire minute. But if we're in a novel, we're in his head the entire time. So we're hearing him think. We're going along with them, and so it's just a matter of kind of matching what I think his thought process would be, and then getting his dialogue on point, and in particular, getting his repartee with somebody like Alfred, getting his back and forth, those things, getting those scenes right was probably the most important thing. And again, since I kind of hear it, I hear the tempo of the rhythm of their conversations. Well, why don't you marry her, Alfred, or whatever? That I can kind of bring that in like that, and there are places where I will use a fraction of a line that somebody said once, and I'll in the movies, and I'll plug that in somewhere, so you'll hear those few words, and you'll say to yourself the rest of it. There's a scene in Revolution where Christopher Walken's character Max Schreck is giving a speech about the history of Gotham City. You don't know the names of these historic figures. Shame on you. And again, that shame on you is a line that's in Batman Returns. Too much power, shame on you, Bruce. There's no such thing. And again, those little things are echo to you. And it's even safe to pull things a little bit outside of the movies themselves. So, I have Max Schreck use the word instead of pranks or jokes, he uses the phrase "crack 'em ups." Well, he used that in one of his one of his monologues on Saturday Night Live. He talks about this cast here, the little crack 'em ups we do, and I'm like, that's just such a weird word, but it sounds like something that Christopher Walken would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And somewhere out there is somebody who actually saw that episode, and it's like, okay, well, that sounds like him. So that there you go.
Now, I was kind of surprised, and that the guy who eventually evolves into the Riddler was actually in the first one.
Oh yeah.
Totally planned, or?
Oh yes, absolutely. We this was a 2-book deal from the very beginning, so I knew I was writing the second book. We announced the second book at the back of the first book, and the last line of the first book is absolutely setting you up. The whole notion was I wanted to show that there were characters. There are 2 villains in the second book that clearly have been active in Gotham City longer than Batman has. Oh. And Riddler is one of them. And he's just been doing a different thing on his own. And it's not like the world just started as soon as he shows up on the rooftop that one time. And so yeah, I'm really happy with that character. Part of the reason that the second book is the longest novel I've ever written. So I mean, book two is quite a bit longer than book 1, is because as we get to know the character who becomes the Riddler, it's important that he credibly do what he needs to do, credibly become the person he needs to become, and this takes some time. This takes some moments. This takes some things going on, and so I'm glad that there was absolutely no question from Random House about putting making the book 550 pages long. And also my editor Tom Holler was just absolutely very supportive when it came to things like putting our puzzles in. The riddle me this. That's the puzzle that the Riddler does for the Gotham Globe newspaper. And literally, it was this time of year last year. I was fiddling with that on Microsoft Excel of all things, which is not necessarily where you would think you would design something like that. But it's
trust me, I've had to type a lot of stuff in Excel at work.
Well, so. I mean, it's a word puzzle using a grid. And what better to put what better grid to put words in, and then I brought it into Photoshop and I cleaned it up and everything. But it was a delight to get to do that. I've had a couple of chances to do things like that lately because I did my both my Strange New Worlds novel, The High Country, and my most recent Star Wars novel, The Living Force.
You put the map in there.
Both of those have the maps, and I did those maps. I did them with a software called Incarnate, which is just really it was nimble enough to handle what I needed to do.
Sure.
I think when we were talking about The Living Force, I mentioned how much I enjoyed the maps, and even with the audiobook, they also included that too.
They included the map, and they did at the opening of every chapter, they did a locator caption where they said where we are. And so if you're listening to the audiobook, it would say, Planet Quen, Galaki, or something like that, wherever they happen to be on the planet there. And that's how they would start every chapter. And that was a trick that we were doing in the Star Trek novels, because the Star Trek novels, we would be all over the place. We'd be traveling everywhere. And so we would want you to know where you were. Well, it really helps the audiobook listener because they're coming in usually after commuting or something like that, and they need to know where they are in the story, and so we tell them physically where they are. Now, the one thing I did not do, I thought about and really explored for book one of the Batman books, doing a map, and I ran away from that problem. And this is because there had been many different versions of Gotham City in maps over the years. Sort of the most official-ish version was the one they did for No Man's Land, first in the comics and then in the hardcover book. There's good and bad to it. I think the thing I think that had been done that was well-meaning was naming all these features in town and avenues and parks and bridges and things after Batman creators. And I'm like, that pulls me right out of the story. When Bob Kane Bridge, okay, I'm like, okay, yeah, and I'm like, well, there's nothing like that in the Batman movie. Also, in the Batman movies, they never really show you locator captures or say what part of town anything is, but also when they do have maps on screen, and that's the first movie where they have a couple of maps that they were looking at. Those are maps of Vancouver, British Columbia.
No kidding.
And that's on the wrong ocean. And so the sea is on the wrong side, and also Vancouver is set up, with very much an east-west thing going on there. Whereas, I think it is generally agreed that Gotham City is, a north-south island chain or connected off the peninsula there. And you know, if you're in a Chris Nolan movie, it looks like Chicago.
So let me ask, because there's no real analogy or one-to-one today for just how big Batman Summer of 1989 was.
Yeah.
Was it daunting to you to step back in time to that era and try to tap into that energy?
Oh no! I mean, I've well, since this has happened, I've been doing an event at I think like 10 different conventions this year. A slideshow, The Legacy of Tim Burton's Batman, where I talk about the importance of this film, how it's the most important comic book movie ever, in part because it changes what the general public thinks comics can be, in part because it changes what the producers in Hollywood, the money folks who make things, what they think a film can be. You do not have as big an opening for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You do not have The Rocketeer. A small press comic book getting a big production. You do not have a violent rock opera like The Crow coming out, again, based on a small press comic book 5 years later, without them having, made this declaration. And all credit to Michael Uslan, the producer, executive producer of the movies, who held out until he got a serious version of Batman with a serious director and a serious actor. Despite the fact that the fans at the time didn't think that was what they were,
right.
But I mean, as soon as that first film ended, I said to myself, this film has redeemed comics in the popular culture, not just Batman, but I mean all. And
right.
It's the days of every single news article about comics having the words "Biff, Pow, Bam" or "Holy Guacamole" or "Great Caesar's Ghost." Not Great Caesar's Ghost, but Holy Roman Empire Batman. That was what I was thinking of. Some sort of a reference to 1966. That is passing, and so I think it's definitely a predicate for the X-Men movies and the MCU later on. Even though Batman does backslide into being sillier as you head towards Batman and Robin. Trumps have been broken. We're never going back to the previous days. And in terms of just getting my enthusiasm there. Well, it never really left. It's just it wasn't. I didn't have anywhere I could go with it for a long time because I was writing a Comics Buyer's Guide. I did a big article in 1999, I think it was, or 1998, on where I studied Prince's album, the soundtrack, and it had sort of its own narrative in that soundtrack. And then I think in a column in 1999, I gave sort of my theory for how I thought you could bring the Joker back, which was something that I was able to fiddle with in the novels years later. But again, other than writing about this time, there are also some of the pages in 1999 or 1989 rather are there on Comichron. You could go and look at June on Comichron right now, June 89, and see what else was selling and where things were. And there's a huge essay for me talking about it. But that was the only way I was ever going to get to really get into that. I did take a job. I wrote a graphic novel for an original graphic novel tie-in to the Disney live-action remake of Dumbo. I did that in 2018, and I did it because that film was directed by Burton and starred Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton. And I'm like, well, this is as close as I'm ever going to get. But it turned out that wasn't the case. So again, it's been a fun ride since then.
Getting back to Revolution, it kind of has a historical bent. Did you have to do any
Oh yeah.
Research, to kind of make sure that make that sound authentic?
Well, once I discovered a variety of things, I was like, oh, this is too perfect not to use. Where it's anybody who watched the Ken Burns the Ken Burns series on the American Revolution. I mean, I was out there saying, okay, Thursday's episode you're going to watch because the events that we're going to describe happen in between these two scenes, and it literally was the case that a historical event did happen very near to where Gotham City is imagined to be on the Eastern Seaboard. There's a ship that's mentioned that really did, really was in that area near Gotham City, or where Gotham City would have been. And as I kept discovering these things, I'm like, ooh, wow, this is too perfect not to use. And it also served a narrative purpose for me because I wanted to show that an unusual thing with Revolution, whereas the first book is about the underworld of Gotham City, the second book is about the underground, the political movements there. Not something you often see in Batman. I think they had what was the villain Anarchy they had for a while in the comics. Well, what I wanted to do was what I imagined that Burton would do is it would be various ragtag groups of crackpots that would, look like they came from, 1970s movies that would be at war with one another as much as they were at war with the police. And I wanted something where I could bring all these people together, and particularly the conspiracy theorists among them, they were very ready to believe that they had a deeper history, and again, being able to wrap that all into all of this, and also to link in the subplots that I had going on with Max Schreck, who is wrapping himself in the flag. Well, I mean, this is something which is natural to have in a book called Revolution that is set during July 4th. It gave me the chance to, imagine. Well, all right, what would Gotham City have looked like in the olden days? And also, I got to tangle with the notion of, how is it possible for this city on the Eastern Seaboard to be celebrating its 200th anniversary in 1989? That's like over 150 years after the settling of the East Coast. So I came up with a dodge for that.
Mm-hmm. I also kind of like how you in Revolution you connected the Riddler and Batman. Oh, I'm not going to give it away, but yeah. I mean, even in the comics, they're kind of competitive about who's the better, one at solving crime, not crimes, but mysteries, I guess.
Well, this is the thing with writing the Riddler. I mean, the Riddler is a very difficult character to write in the spirit of the old comics and the old TV show. If you imagine that the whole deal with the Riddler is, well, now he's going to send Batman a riddle where if he solves it, he can catch the Riddler, or he's going to send him a riddle, and if he solves it, it'll lead him into a trap. Well, Bruce Wayne is too smart for that. I think, right? At least Keaton's Bruce Wayne would screw that. I'm not even going to try to solve this. This is silly. And so I'm like, well, I want to do something where asking people riddles is part of this guy's daily life, but he always intends them to be solved or solvable, and he's also always doing these things in order to lead people to action. And I wanted to set up a situation where he and Bruce Wayne kind of have this mirror image thing going on of their lives. You could easily see if you had the Riddler getting different breaks during his life. that he would be a much more palatable either teammate for Batman or who knows. It's something where I think once we get into the middle of the book, people should see that they're both equally wickedly smart. They're just getting to solutions from different directions. And that's not something that the Riddler is necessarily very good at coping with, because this being a brain is his only thing.
Right. He certainly doesn't pose a physical threat.
No, he doesn't throw a punch in the whole book. I think that's not a spoiler.
And not to give anything away, but I also like how in the last end of the book, how you kind of tie it into what happens, in Batman Returns, that Max Shreck.
Again, my job is not to tie all the loose ends up, but it fit and it worked, and why not? And you also never know. It's like this was a case where I knew I was doing a second book, and so because of that, I did not burn up all of the the low-hanging fruit, or I did not pluck all the low-hanging fruit in the first book. I was not rushing around trying to resolve things or whatever. But again, I had good story reasons for doing what I was doing, and I'm really pleased. Yeah, particularly once I think both books. Michael Uslan, who actually executive producer, who helps he helped us launch the novel by signing the book with us at New York Comic Con. He'd said to me, "Thank you for resolving some of the plot problems with the first movie," which again was not intentional on anybody's part. It just ended up
it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and I was able to actually. Yeah, with a few tweaks, make my headcanon that I'd had for years, work for everybody, I hope. And so, there are a variety of things like that, even in the second movie that I think that I have knitted together. And at least if I haven't explicitly said, this is how that happened, I think I've left enough breadcrumbs there where if you want to see between the lines and see what I think happened, it's there.
Now, I know you said it was a 2-book deal, but would you, if they wanted, do you have another story?
I'm absolutely, my passport is still good for this universe. I'm working on a project. I can never say what the projects are while I'm working on them until somebody else announces them. But I was really glad to see these books reach the public, and they were more successful than I was imagining possible. I've heard that book 1 is going back to print yet again in hardcover, and the softcover is already out, but it's still coming out. And the 2 books together, we're looking at 950 pages of one cohesive story, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely is.
And if somebody says they do 950 more, they know where to find me. But
you at the end of the Revolution, you even make a call back to the first one with a certain character.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, it is fun, and again, I never thought it was possible to get a chance to write something tying in just to those two movies. I never. Yeah, if people would always ask me what my dream franchise to work on would be, media franchise, and I would never go to that because it never occurred to me that you could just do those two films. And so, I am thankful to the fandom that really dug those movies. I'm thankful to DC and Sam Hamm and Joe Quinones for doing the comics. I think it certainly helped having Michael Keaton come back and do the Flash. Although the Flash I think is on a different strand of spaghetti than we are on. A reference which
never seen it.
Well, that can't help you then. That reference will make sense if you watch the movie. But basically, I do not necessarily consider that timeline to be our timeline. But I'm not the arbiter of that stuff either. But yeah, so it's the all of that and just the enduring popularity of those characters and the licensing. I mean, they're still putting out action figures and things like that. Yeah. Tying into them. So I'm just really happy to have gotten to spend a couple of years, the last 2 years anyway, in Gotham City, and it's a much nicer place than people see on the screen.
Well, we certainly appreciate it.
And I definitely enjoyed the book, and it did make me want to go back and rewatch the two movies, because I remember in '89 when it came out. I had like the Batmobile model and all the different, it was probably McDonald's that did the tie-in.
Not the '89 movie. It was they did Batman Returns. Okay. The fast food tie-in for the first movie was Taco Bell, and
that's right.
Yeah, I've got the cups over here somewhere. They're falling apart finally after all these years. That was a sign of how little confidence some parts of Madison Avenue still had in those films back then, or that film back then, because Taco Bell didn't have anywhere near the number of stores that it does now. And so it was kind of like a level 3 or so, tier 3 licensee, and of course it ends up being part of the final fate of Tim Burton's association, and by extension Michael Keaton's association with these movies, that McDonald's comes in for Batman Returns and marks it like something that should be in Happy Meals.
There's a whole nother conversation there, I think. But
yep.
John Jackson Miller, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and talking about Batman Resurrection and Batman Revolution and all these great things that you're working on.
Yep, those are both in stores now, and folks can find me on my website farawaypress.com. I have an eBay.
Great holiday presents.
Oh yes. I have an eBay store for signed books. Faraway Press is the name of that store on there. People can also find me on social media. I am JJM Faraway on Twitter. I am John Jackson Miller on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And I'm farawaypress.com again on Blue Sky. And again, I also have that website, Comicron, which is still there, comicron.com, with all those historical charts and essays.
All right. Well, my friend, thank you, and have wonderful holidays.
Appreciate it.
And those of you listening, thank you for supporting us. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. If you want, Chad, I think we're off until the new year, but we've got
no. Remember Monday? We're doing our top 5 holiday comic books.
That's right. We'll be back with our top 5 holiday. You get to hear me talk about Hitman number 22 for as long as Chad will let me. So with that being said, thank you all for listening and supporting. Thank you for supporting your local comic book shops. Get out there and do some good in the world, because God knows we need it. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.